Okay, so get this right. What if there was a sequel to Mein Kampf? Like, just imagine that. Hidden away for, I don't know, decades.
Wow.
Well, today, that's exactly what we're diving into. It's called Hitler's Second Book,
Yeah.
written in 1928, but get this, never published. It's like we're getting a sneak peek into Hitler's brain before, before he became the dictator.
Yeah, the Hitler that we all know.
Right.
Yeah.
So it's 1928. Hitler's, gaining power, but Mein Kampf, his first book isn't exactly a bestseller.
Right.
But the second book, it's raw, it's unfiltered. It's like he's letting us in on his strategy,
Yeah, it's a fascinating document for sure. I mean, think about it, right?
Mhm.
1928, he's, like I said, he's rising in power, but the first book, not really selling well.
Right.
The second one, it's like you said, it's raw. It's like he's just, putting all his thoughts out there unfiltered.
Yeah, so the question is, I guess, could we have predicted the Holocaust just by reading this back then?
Oh, that's the big question, isn't it?
Yeah.
Um,
So let's unpack some of these early ideas.
okay, yeah.
And you tell me if you see the warning signs.
Yeah, yeah. Well, right from the start, you see Hitler's just obsessed with this idea of Lebensraum.
Lebensraum.
Yeah, it literally means living space.
Mm.
Like, he is convinced that Germany needs to expand, physically conquer territory
Mm.
for its people to survive,
Yeah.
to thrive.
Not just expand economically, but take over other countries.
Exactly, yeah. He just dismisses things like, boosting productivity or focusing on trade. It's for Hitler, it's all about land.
Mhm.
And there's just not enough to go around in his mind.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
So he's already justifying conquest years before he actually has the power to do it.
Right. And you know what's even crazier?
What?
He thinks emigration, people leaving Germany, is making the country weaker.
What? That's crazy.
It's bizarre logic.
Yeah.
He argues that the people who emigrate are the strongest ones, the most determined, the ones who would have, contributed most to Germany.
Oh, wow.
Yeah, it's like he's creating this narrative of the nation being drained of its vitality.
Almost like he's saying, if you're so great, why are you leaving?
Yeah, exactly.
But it also feeds into his warped view of population and breeding.
Absolutely. He rants about the declining birth rate, but not in the usual way.
How so?
He's convinced that the best Germans, right, are the ones having fewer kids. So the overall quality of the population is declining.
Whoa.
Yeah.
So it's not just about numbers for him. It's about who's having the babies.
Right.
This guy was obsessed with controlling every aspect of society, even before he had any real power.
Absolutely. And you see this control freak mentality even in his disdain for democracy.
Really?
He sees it as a system that elevates mediocrity and stifles strong leaders. He even compares democratic leaders to, get this, Herostratus's.
Yeah, these figures from ancient history who, destroyed their own people for personal gain.
But he's already planning to dismantle democracy,
Oh, yeah?
painting himself as the strong man who'll save everyone.
Exactly.
But then he does a total 180 and proposes this bizarre alliance
Yeah.
with Italy
Uh-huh.
and England.
I know, right? It's a strange mix, right?
That's bizarre.
But remember, Hitler was a master strategist. He believed that Italy was a natural ally. They both hated France. They both wanted to, expand their territory.
Right.
And England, he thought they'd be pragmatic, team up to contain their rival France and benefit from Germany's growing power.
It's kind of like a twisted game of Risk.
Yeah.
Where he's trying to manipulate everyone into playing along with his grand plan.
Exactly.
Wow.
But his real ruthlessness, you see it in his stance on the South Tyrol problem.
South Tyrol. Yeah, this was a region with a large German-speaking population that Italy annexed after World War I.
Right.
You'd think he'd be all about getting it back for Germany, right?
Yeah, it fits his whole Lebensraum obsession.
But here's the twist. He actually criticizes German nationalists who are too focused on South Tyrol.
Really?
He's saying they're ignoring the bigger picture. It's like he's willing to sacrifice these people for his grand vision of, German dominance.
Wow. So even his own people are expendable if they don't fit into his plans.
It's pretty chilling.
And of course, we can't forget about his anti-Semitism. It's
Yeah.
front and center in Mein Kampf.
Sadly, it takes on an even more central role in this book. His conspiracy theories about Jewish international influence, they're in full force.
So he's like doubling down on that.
Oh, yeah. He's convinced they're pulling the strings, weakening nations, and aiming for global domination.
And it's not just vague prejudice, right? He
Uh,
gets like specific,
He does.
pointing to things like the press in England and France,
Right.
claiming their evidence of this Jewish control.
Exactly. It's like he's trying to build a case, even if it's completely delusional.
Right.
And this hatred, this conviction that Jews are the enemy, it's clearly going to play a major role in his future actions.
Okay, so we're starting to see the warning signs here.
Yeah.
But it gets even darker in the next part of the book,
Oh, yeah.
where Hitler turns his attention to Russia.
Uh-huh.
So we've got this like twisted view of Germany's destiny, right? This need for expansion and, the deep-seated hatred of Jewish people.
Yeah.
But where does Russia fit into all of this?
Well, that's where things get really interesting and terrifying. Because you see, despite the potential for a powerful alliance, Hitler, he completely rejects any possibility of working with Russia.
You'd think with their shared borders and, potential enemies, it would be like a no-brainer, right?
Okay, maybe, yeah. But Hitler's reasons go way beyond just, political strategy. It boils down to his core beliefs about, race and what he saw as the Russian national character.
Okay, so he's got this whole master race thing going on. But how does that play out, like, specifically with Russia?
Well, Hitler believed that Slavic people, which includes Russians, were just inherently inferior to Germans. He argued that they lacked the capacity for leadership and state building. He even claimed that any achievements Russia had were thanks to German influence.
Wait, so he's basically saying that Russia wouldn't even exist without Germans.
Exactly. He pointed to the fact that Russia had like a German-influenced aristocracy for centuries, claiming they were the only ones capable of, keeping the country together.
Wow.
It's a complete erasure of Russia's own history and culture.
It's like he's creating this alternate reality where Germans are like the puppet masters behind every major civilization.
Right.
But he doesn't stop there, does he?
No. He goes on to argue that this German influence was declining in the early 20th century. And that's a major problem for him. He blames it on, war losses and a lower birth rate among the German aristocracy in Russia.
So it's not enough that he thinks Slavic people are, like, inferior, but now he's worried about the Germanness of Russia being, like, diluted.
Right. It's all part of his obsession with racial purity. He's constructing this narrative of decline and degeneration, claiming that Russia is being taken over by, inferior elements is a theme we see repeated throughout his writings.
But it wasn't just about race for him, right? He also had this idea that Germans and Russians were, like, fundamentally incompatible on a, like, spiritual level almost.
Absolutely. He saw their national characters as completely opposed.
Yes.
He claimed Germans and Russians had very little in common, dismissing any similarities as mere coincidences caused by racial impurities.
So even if there were, like, shared cultural traits or historical connections, he just refused to, like, acknowledge them.
It's like he needed an enemy, someone to contrast with his idealized vision of Germany, and Russia with its vast territory and different cultural identity. It fit the bill perfectly.
And of course, this fear of Russia wasn't just about, land or cultural differences.
No.
It was also deeply intertwined with his hatred of Bolshevism.
Right. For Hitler, Bolshevism represented everything he despised. He saw it as a Jewish conspiracy to destroy traditional values and national identities.
So he's not just, like, anti-communist. He's specifically equating Bolshevism with, like, Jewish control.
Exactly. He argued that Russia's embrace of Bolshevism had turned it into like a puppet state for international Jewish financiers. And he was terrified of this, ideology spreading to Germany, believing it would contaminate the racial purity of the nation.
But his view of Bolshevism was also kind of contradictory, wasn't it? Like, he didn't even believe that Russia was, like, truly anti-capitalist.
That's one of the most fascinating and twisted aspects of his thinking. He argued that Russia's destruction of its own economy was actually a ploy to benefit international finance capital, which he believed was largely controlled by Jews.
So, in his mind, both Bolshevism and capitalism were ultimately serving the same purpose
Yeah.
to empower the Jewish people and weaken traditional nation states.
Right. It's a completely paranoid and conspiratorial worldview,
Yeah.
but it was deeply ingrained in his thinking.
Okay, so we've got this like clear picture of Russia as the enemy, right?
Uh-huh.
Racially inferior, ideologically opposed, and like a threat to Germany's very existence.
Yeah.
But if Russia's out and France is the, perpetual rival, who does that leave for Germany as like a potential ally?
We've talked about his idea of an alliance with Italy and England,
Right.
which might seem outlandish in hindsight.
Yeah, totally.
But we have to remember, this book was written in 1928
Hmm.
before Hitler came to power.
So maybe, just maybe, there was like a sliver of a chance this alliance could have actually happened.
It's impossible to say for sure.
Yeah.
But considering Hitler's strategic mind and his ability to, manipulate situations to his advantage, it's at least worth exploring.
That's a chilling thought. But even if we, entertain that possibility, it's clear that Hitler ultimately saw Germany as like a solitary power, destined for greatness, but also like fated to fight for its place in the world.
And that sense of isolation, that belief in Germany's unique destiny would become like a defining feature of his rule,
Yeah.
which leads us to another disturbing aspect of his thinking, his views on war.
Okay, so we've kind of seen it all, right? This blueprint for expansion, his really messed up views on race,
Yeah.
and a deep, deep distrust of Russia and democracy.
Yeah.
But if war is like inevitable in his mind, how does he see it playing out?
Well, he makes it very clear, war for him, it's not just about conquering territory or resources.
Right.
It's about proving Germany's strength.
Mm.
It's their right to dominate, almost like a twisted social Darwinism
Oh, wow.
playing out on the world stage.
So it's not enough to just be powerful. You have to constantly prove it through violence.
Yeah, exactly. He saw nations as being locked in this constant struggle for survival, where only the fittest would prevail.
Right.
And for Hitler, that meant being willing to wage war, to crush your enemies, to show no mercy.
But even with this like might makes right mentality, he still kind of acknowledges the need for alliances.
Yeah.
So how does he square that circle?
He's very specific about what he wants in an ally.
Okay.
It's not just about military strength or strategic advantage.
Right.
It has to be a nation that shares Germany's goals, its values, its worldview. Like he's looking for a deep ideological connection.
So back to that strange idea of teaming up with Italy and England, he must have seen something in them that fit this like ideological criteria.
Well, yeah, remember, he believed that Italy, with its own ambitions for expansion and its hatred of France, was a natural partner.
Right, right.
And England, he thought he could appeal to their pragmatism, their
Yeah.
desire to maintain their global empire. He argued that an alliance with Germany would ultimately benefit them by containing France and giving them access to German power.
It's like he's trying to play chess with entire nations,
Yeah.
using their own, ambitions and fears against them. But even if this alliance somehow had worked out, I mean, there's no doubt in my mind that Hitler saw Germany as the one, calling the shots.
Absolutely, yeah. He
All right.
he believed in Germany's destiny, its right to lead, and that combined with his willingness to use any means necessary to achieve his goals, it makes Hitler's second book a truly terrifying document.
Mhm.
It's like reading a villain's origin story, knowing full well the horrors that are to come.
It's chilling, and it's even more disturbing when you realize that he's not just, criticizing other nations.
Yeah.
He's also constantly attacking the German people themselves.
Yeah, it's a strange paradox, right?
It is.
He sees them as the master race, but also as weak, decadent, corrupted by outside influences.
Yeah.
He criticizes their pacifism, their materialism, their embrace of democracy. It's like he's trying to shame them into action to awaken some primal urge for domination.
Almost like he needs them to be angry to feel threatened, so they'll be willing to follow him down this dark path.
Exactly, yeah.
Yeah.
And it's a tactic that would prove chillingly effective.
So I guess after diving deep into this book, the question that kind of haunts me is this. Could anything have been done to prevent the horrors that, followed? If people had read this in 1928, would they have seen like the warning signs?
That's the ultimate question, isn't it?
It is.
And it's one that historians and political scientists continue to debate.
Right.
It's impossible to say for sure, what might have happened if different choices had been made, if the world had taken Hitler's words more seriously.
Right. Right.
But what we can say is that Hitler's second book, it serves as a powerful reminder, a warning from history.
Yeah.
It shows us the dangers of unchecked ambition,
Yeah.
of hateful ideologies, and of what can happen when a charismatic leader with a twisted vision gains power.
It's a lesson we can't afford to forget. Well, this has been a truly thought-provoking deep dive. Thank you for guiding us through this difficult but important material.
It was my pleasure. I think it's crucial that we continue to learn from the past.
Yeah.
To be vigilant against the rise of extremism, and to work towards a more just and peaceful world.
I couldn't agree more. And to our listeners, thank you for joining us on this journey. Keep learning, keep questioning, and keep diving deep.